Hey, this is Brian Stevens with Public Education Unfiltered. That is a real mouthful of a name, but it is unfiltered because if you've ever listened to this podcast, if you're new to us, you'll know that I get rather mouthy a little bit about supporting public education. But today I'm very excited because we've got a special guest. We've got Rochanda Jackson, who is the director and executive director in the Office of Policy, Planning, Evaluation, and Testing. But that's a really big mouthful. But let me tell you who she is, right? She represents the largest school district in New Jersey, and they're right at the forefront of school choice and enrollment issues. And they've got to provide world-class service to get and keep their services. I think they do, by the way. But what she's really good at is she has a crystal ball and she can predict the future. And we've been working with her for a number of years, and she's always able to kind of my team's always like, oh, she knows exactly what's going to happen a year or 2 years from now. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. So, hey, thank you so much, Rochanda, for showing up today and sharing your knowledge with us.
So happy to be here, Brian. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. I really want to I want to kind of dig into school choice a little bit, but not. it- Something came up in a interview that I did yesterday, which was about standardized testing, and the person interviewing me, a professor at Harvard, very fancy, said, he said, well, private schools and charter schools can be more nimble and they can change things up quicker. And I kind of clapped back at him. I go, that's because they don't have to worry about standardized testing. And so, do you have what are your views on the importance of standardized testing? Should all schools of all choices have standardized testing? I just would like to kind of do a deep dive on standardized testing with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is my background, and Harvard is my alma mater. Just full
Mhm.
transparency.
That's why I
But
was making fun of it, doctor. I mean, that's why I was making fun of it. Yeah, but
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So yeah, I do believe that standardized assessment is important. And in fact, New Jersey during the pandemic had one of the few states that decided for 2 years consecutively that it would not proceed with its state assessment program. But understanding that districts as large as ours, with all of the challenges that we have, we needed to continue to have a bead on what skills students were able to continue to build, and what skills they were continuing to struggle with, and what supports we needed to put in place for them, either because it's something that was persisting or something that we were seeing as beginning to decline. So, for example, vocabulary is usually in assessments is not something that is heavily weighted because it is a low hanging fruit. But we were seeing that students were beginning to exhibit a decline in that area. And so, that's an area that is easy to shore up on with a few focused, sort of intentional approaches and pedagogy to ensure that you have some insulation there. And so we used MAP beginning in the pandemic so we could continue to understand the kinds of skill gaps students were struggling with. Assessment is incredibly important because if you don't measure it, you won't know what you're doing right in terms of quality, and what you are doing right, like what you are doing right, and where the gaps are.
Yeah, so that I so years and years ago, so I'm an industrial psychologist by trade, right? And so before I went to law school and the army and all that stuff, so I got really down on standardized testing for a number of years. Like I got really nervous because it can really pigeonhole people. People come from different backgrounds, they have different experiences, and sometimes people grow up in poverty and they need some help catching up and things like that. So, but I've softened on it, and I now see the importance of standardized testing. Why don't I just want to get your take on this? Why don't we require then private schools and charter schools and other people that get vouchers and state money to do standardized testing then? I mean,
Yeah, so there are lots of different reasons for that. That has to do with, I think, ultimately accountability, right? And being free of what has often been built out as our the accountability system. Um, and the perception of being flexible means that you should not have to, report back on how you're doing with the students that you've been entrusted with.
Well, well,
Um,
Director, I I get it. I'm with you. I don't think that they're accountable, and I think that that's a problem for that's a problem. So when we kind of dip into enrollment, like we've got to enroll students, we've got to advocate, we got to put our best foot forward. How do you find it best to counter the argument that public schools are terrible, their test scores are bad, but they don't even know what the test scores of all these other students are? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that for public schools, they have to run their race, right? I think that our schools have to stand on the merit of what they've been actually able to do, and being transparent about the road that they have ahead of them, and engaging parents in their community, with full transparency about what they have planned, understanding that they have a commitment to them and to their children to provide quality services, and saying to them that this is how you're going to hold us accountable. We are using these assessments, we're using our accountability system, we're telling you how we are doing with that.
You
If these organizations spend their time focused on what their competitors are doing, they're not going to be able to provide the kinds of quality services that they actually can do. So, my district, for example, with Newark, there are about 25,000 students in the city that are enrolled in a charter or a private school. We also have, all districts have are contending with the new burgeoning number of students that are going into homeschooling, right? Their parents are homeschooling them. We've seen as many as 300 students, their parents opting to homeschool them. The number has decreased since the pandemic, but it is another another challenge for us. And then you have nationally and local immigration policies as well that play a role in um, the challenges that districts and urban districts in particular can face, right? So Newark, for example, is a sanctuary city, and so we have had to be closely aligned to our city government to ensure that we're able to help families who are bringing children who have long treks across thousands of miles. We want to make sure that those children are ready to learn. Our L population has grown from 4,500 in 2018 to over 10,000 currently. And so all of those challenges means that we need to be really clear and really intentional about what we're doing, right?
and that kind of brings up the point is, and I do applaud you. I think it's right. And when we do our work to enroll students, we only thing we do is put the best foot forward of the districts we work with. But the competition doesn't do that. I mean, in New Jersey, this was probably 4 years ago. I found an advertisement where they said, "Are your children safe in public school?" And then the ad was heroin found in local public high school, right? And then it was an enrollment for a competitive school. Like it was like, now you can enroll with us and be safe, which is a joke because drugs filter into every type of school, especially the private ones. I mean, that's where all the money is, right? And so, but I find that it's when we're trying to give parents a choice, like just an equal level playing field. Here's this school, here's this school. How do you, I mean, I get it. You're saying we're gonna say, I actually wrote this down, this little tagline of, we actually test as public schools. We actually test them. Does your school? Like, I feel like that's an interesting little tagline for, I don't know if we could use it, but we never try to really we never talk about the competition, but they talk about us, and they use these standardized test scores against us when they're enrolling their students. And I just don't know how to provide parents with accurate, clean information. It's like, yeah, we get standardized tests, but it's accurate and it's true. And you're comparing apples to like bulldozers because they don't do that. I just
Right.
don't know if you've got a clean approach of we're just going to worry about ourselves. You seem very stoic. You're like Socrates, we're just going to worry about our controllables.
Yeah, not entirely. I mean, we're not naive, right, about the challenges that we're facing. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are engaging our community as our customers, right, and saying that we have evidence about what we're doing, about how we're serving you, and if you are considering alternatives, are they providing you with the same level of information that we are? And certainly when it comes to safety, when it comes to other areas of interest, when parents are making these kinds of decisions, again, we have the data to show where we are and how we've grown, right? Where in terms of being able to offer parents different kinds of schools that they might be interested in having their children in. For example, career and technical based education programs. We have opened our 10th school in the district since 2018, and a lot of them have been high schools with a career and technical education program focus. Everything from global studies where students are able to learn Mandarin and Arabic to students in this upcoming year being able to earn real estate licenses, to learn plumbing and other architectural related fields is the new high school that we're opening up in the fall.
Yeah.
So again, just being able to offer parents that portfolio is something that makes us competitive. And again, we're able to provide different kinds of information with that's been substantiated, right?
Director, I got our first pro tip. I wrote it down. I love my little pro tips. So I think that if your school district anywhere in the nation, I think what I am taking the director is, first off, get your school in order, do a great job. Most districts are doing a great job. They have something to advocate, something to sell. But I wrote this down. We have the evidence that we're teaching our children. We have the evidence that our programs are working because we do standardized tests. And so literally before this conversation, I was thinking that standardized testing could hold us back because they don't have to do it. But it really is an opportunity to showcase, no, we have evidence that we rock and roll. We have evidence that we're great. I love that. So I think that's our first pro tip. Caroline? Okay, our producer says that's our first pro tip of the day. So I think that's a really good one. I've never used that. We have the evidence that we're awesome. And we have the other things. So let's, as you drift into the enrolling students, what are you seeing that the other schools, like the competitor schools, are doing that you wish you were doing that you're not right now? Is there anything that you've seen? Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I don't know. I mean, I have found that they are picking up tips from us. So, for example, like we have our school, all of our schools in our district serve as mini enrollment centers in addition to our central office. So, parents, if they feel uncomfortable with the online universal system that we have, they can get in-person support by coming to our central office or walking into any of our local schools and getting in-person support. And then when we have our open enrollment window, we have pop-up enrollment shops around the city. And so we are seeing that our charter or schools are copying that strategy
Okay.
to try to entice families to—
Slow down, director. Slow down. Slow down, man. I want to hear. Okay. So I want to hear about these pop-up enrollment centers, because one of the things that we started doing this work, golly, I guess it was 11 years ago. And it was so interesting when you said, we got to treat them like our customers. So our second pro tip, the parents and family are our customers, like it or not. I think that's our second pro tip for the day, right? But so I went to do a secret shopper of a school. This was in Texas. I do that a lot. I think it's interesting. And I remember walking up and I had about an hour before my meeting, and I went to the school to like see about enrolling my pretend daughter in Texas, right? I mean, I have a daughter, but she's not going to school in Texas. And they had a sign on the door that said, "Be back after lunch." All right. It was in 15 minutes. And then another mom and her daughter walked up. So we sat there for 15 minutes. And then the person came up and they said, "Oh, you can't enroll here. You have to go to the enrollment center." And we're like, "Where's the enrollment center?" And they told us the location. I kid you not, it was the district headquarters, not the enrollment center. So I go to the district headquarters, not the enrollment center. Then I go to the enrollment center, and they were nice, they were polite, but I never saw that mother again. She just, she was trying to get it done during lunch, didn't have the time. So in the past, public schools have jumped through a lot of barriers. You have to jump through a lot of barriers to enroll. And I know that your district, Newark, has really torn down a lot of those barriers and really made it easier. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you've made it easy for parents, and the pop-ups and everything? That's really interesting to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all of our school clerks are empowered with full rights in our enrollment system, so that even if mom lives across the street from a school, but she wants her child to go to a school that is across the city, she's able to go to that school across the street and get help with completing the application for any school in the district. So yeah, parents would not be turned away for that reason, for any reason actually, because they're able to get the support that they need at the location where they go, where they want to go.
Mhm.
Also, too, like I said, during our open enrollment window, we have the central office team go out to schools so that there are additional hands on deck in any region of the city to be able to help parents who are interested in applying during our open enrollment window. And then we also have on the day that, or the days that we assess our students who are interested in going to high school. So we test all eighth graders, even those eighth graders who are not currently enrolled in our district. We have like a Saturday test administration day, and we have enrollment staff members on hand to who show up and who have not applied at all. We want to make sure that those families get the support that they need, so that again they have that opportunity to be enrolled in our district.
So,
So
so
yeah.
can they also enroll STEM to Stern online without going to a school?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we do try to open up additional paths to get to our families, right? So it's kind of like we've put some time in and kind of reconsidering how we get to our customers. So, understanding what our ecosystem is means understanding that we can outreach parents when children are born to begin considering Newark Board of Education as the place where they want their child to be. So, we have created partnerships with our local hospitals so that we have a team of district nurses that are on hand. So, as new parents are checking out of the hospital with their new baby, they are met by our district nurses who are able to relay the message that we are excited about the prospect of having their baby with us in just a few short years, right? Telling them about our
That,
district, the kind of preschool programs that we offer. And even if the parents end up selecting another like a non district based preschool program, we have partnered with those preschool programs so that we have a pipeline of children who want to come to us for kindergarten.
yeah. So, director, we've known that com- competition has been going to start to recruit families to go to their school as early as like the prenatal wards. You're the first district that I've spoken to. Maybe you're not the only one, but you're the first one that is actively doing that also. And that is very, very proactive. It's very cool that you're thinking about this in terms of a pipeline, right? And it's feel a little guilty treating children as like a commodity in some ways, like a pipeline and a sales and all that stuff. But that's the world that the legislatures and Congress has presented to us, right? That's the way we have to treat them like customers. We can't just educate them, but now we have to go and sell them to come to the best schools, which is, Newark in the area. Right. So I love that you're going in early to get this. Now, Jersey was not always open enrollment. Do you know when it got changed up to being open enrollment?
So I do want to speak to the commodity idea
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
aren't approaching, the families as, as folks with commodities, but just understanding like we are offering a service, and we really want you to seriously consider us as the place where you want your child to grow academically. But for the entire state of New Jersey is not open enrollment. And in fact, we're one of few districts that are open enrollment, and which is a big deal given that we are the largest city in the state. It did become a part of our the way that we operate in I want to say 2015.
2015.
And so it was under state when we were a state operated district. But we have kept on this approach to how we want to support families in enrollment. We do think that it provides giving families a choice about where they want their child to go is important. So if they want to choose their neighborhood school, they can. But if they want to choose the school that is, across the city, then
Well,
absolutely we
well,
support.
it is interesting that thanks for that. I wasn't sure when Newark became open enrollment, but the districts that have advocated and requested that policy change can really serve their families with the most amount of tools possible. Because maybe my child really wants to be in a great band program, or they really want a great math program, or I just want them closer to my job because it's just more convenient, you know? And that open enrollment is a real thing. So the districts out there that don't have open enrollment, I'd really encourage them to start talking to their legislative councils, their state associations are probably the best vehicle to go and start trying to advocate for that, wherever that's done. So that's great. So I want to go back to this burden thing again, because you're right, this commodity, right? This commodity thing. It's it, we do a lot of training, customer service training around the nation, and the how did you and get your team and all the people involved actually start to provide this great service? Because what I've seen is I've gone to districts, yes, in New Jersey, not just yours, not yours. I've trained districts throughout the country. Some of them are really open to providing good customer service, but most of them treat the parents like a burden. I get it. The front desk people are overworked. They got so much responsibility. Families are yelling at them. They got a lot of pressure. Like I totally empathize with their ability not to be like, hey, everybody, I just got yelled at by these moms because my child was 10 minutes late, or they want to get their child out early without an ID, or whatever that controversy is they're dealing with. But Newark has really focused on not treating them like a burden, but actually treating them like an opportunity. How did you get everyone on board with this?
Yeah, a culture shift is not an easy thing, and so it takes a couple of years, right, to change an organization. And so one of the things recently that we have as a district initiative is implementing these four core values that really came out of a district in Texas. Dr. Hinojosa in Texas, I believe he's with I want to say Dallas. I'll have to fact check that for
It's
you, but
Dallas. I think
it
yeah,
is
that's
Dallas.
Dallas. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And so, the four tenets are be focused, fast, friendly, and flexible. And we have that as part of our grounding for how we approach our support for families, whether they are seeking to understand, what kinds of options they have for enrollment in the city, to actually completing the application process, to getting them all the way through to registration, and then coming in on the first day of school, which is right after Labor Day, right? We want to make sure that families are supported through that full arc, and approaching that process from that core four grounding.
So you had I love that, focus, fast, friendly, and flexible. I mean, every one of those is totally required to provide, the flexibility. I find some people are completely inflexible. I'm not talking to my wife right now. If she's listening, I'm not mentioning her by name. Totally inflexible. I'm not her, but other people. But fast, friendly, and focused. And so how does this get disseminated in Newark? I mean, how do you get, because I've secret shopped some of your schools, and I find that, people can have bad days, but by and large, people get this taking care of the families. How did it disseminate? How did you actually train the people to implement this?
Yeah, I mean, professional development, as you just mentioned, is an important part of it, right? So, taking examples of where you may need to de-escalate an interaction, right, and having that as part of your training, so that people on the staff have the skills to be able to ensure that they are focused in engaging families, that make sure that they have the resources that they need. So, ensuring that if a family comes in and they need translation services, they know exactly, like it's at their fingertips, where they need to go in order to bring in another person to be able to support them in that engagement. When it comes to being flexible, it means, thinking through, okay, you not only work your 9 to 5, you have an opportunity to earn extra money by with supplemental pay, and you have resources to things like Google Voice, so that you can call families from home, to help them through, for example, if they're having trouble with completing an application, you can, as a staff member, you can support them through that by having these resources. So training is incredibly important in supporting our staff members and being able to implement the core four. And then, of course, friendliness is a part of that process. And so again, it's de-escalation training. It's holding each other accountable. So if you're seeing a staff member who might be like uh, like on the edge, so to speak, right?
Overly
Right? Like
burned. Yeah, overly burned with
they're getting
life.
crispy, right? They're getting
Yeah.
crispy, and so being attuned to your colleagues, so you can step in and help that person out, so they can step back, and that family still gets the quality support that's expected.
That crispy, that's a great term. I always use this term. Everybody, I think, can be inherently nice when it's calm and relaxed. But when they get in our disruption training, our crisis management training, when somebody gets, hit in the face verbally, physically, somebody comes at them aggressively, you jump into that fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. People kind of panic a little bit. So I'm glad that you guys are providing that kind of training so they can go, I'm going to get through this situation. It's going to be all right. Let me think. And I and I really love that you're focused on the language services. Another dumb story. Sorry, director. Is I was given some training. This was in Louisiana, but I've had the same issue where they go, "We don't need to learn no Spanish." And I was like, "Wow, all you have to do learn is a simple phrase. Lo siento, un momento, por favor." And let them know that you're trying to go find somebody to use the app or the translation or to go get. That's all people need. They just need to know you care a little bit about what they're going through and that you have a little empathy. I love that. Now, uh, before we leave, I do want you to pull out your crystal ball a little bit. All right. And I want you to think about the future. And what I'm really curious about is you guys are so you've already got the open enrollment. Districts need to do that. You have so many different ways for the families to enroll, not just online, but Saturdays go to the different schools. I mean, a lot of content. You've hired us to go out there and like literally knock on doors and try to talk to people that didn't show up. You're doing all these really innovative things. Okay, that's great. I'm awesome. What what do you need over the next few years if you could kind of think about the future that you don't have now that you think maybe you're already working on it or that you wish you had or others were working on? Like, what is your prediction for the future and what kind of things do you need to keep doing or is it just stay the course? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I think continuing to grow our partnerships, right, and grow our pipeline of students. We, as a district, we were promised by the state new schools years ago when we were a state operated district. We have a number of schools that are in working condition, but they are over 100 years old. And so I'm hoping that in the future we will continue to be able to build new schools with the kinds of quality and curriculum that we have been revising and continuing to enhance. So again, we can continue to be at the forefront of being able to offer parents a really high quality experience for their children. The locations matter,
Yeah.
right? The
So
condition of them.
let's stay on facilities just for a second. So is that do you have to go to the taxpayers to get like a capital improvement thing, or does that come directly from the state to fund these new schools or upgraded schools?
Yeah, so there is an existing decision related to this matter that I'm talking about, and so there are a specific number of schools that were identified and agreed upon to build, and so we are in the process of the state kind of working through how they're going to implement that. And so we're just looking forward to being able to have that come to fruition. Right?
Are
We've only knocked out, I think, not even a third of that full list, and so
do you worry about those
we're
funds
looking forward to
being
that.
yeah, do you worry about those funds being redirected to new charter schools or voucher programs or things like that?
No, I do think that because it is a specific decision that's already established. It's not necessarily something that would be an either or. Perhaps if the state may have to yeah, have that consideration, right, in terms of how they are going to stage out the full scope of what they're trying to do. But for what we have to contend with, we want to ensure that we get that decision, to come to fruition.
So so are you also starting to look at different types of learning styles using AI, more computer tech, more, assistant teachers and tutoring services? I mean, are there things that that you've got to start to work on now in order to provide that the best, education possible?
Absolutely. And so we've revised our curriculum, and we're providing intensive English language arts and math professional development so that that first instruction in those core content areas is really strong. We're also using AI based assessment programs to help with the overall approach to interventional support so we can ensure that we are helping those students that are in the gap with mastering specific skills that they will need to grow as learners. We are, doing things that are associated with expanding our AP portfolio so we can provide rigorous courses in our high schools for students. So in Algebra 1, being able to offer that not just in high school, but as early as eighth grade,
Well,
so
hold on,
that when
hold on.
students,
Slow down, director. You saying you want to offer algebra in eighth grade?
we are currently
I
doing
didn't
that,
get to
yes.
algebra, I don't think ever. Of course, I wasn't very bright. I just had to go in the army. But
I don't believe that.
my daughter had to take calculus. I can't even spell calculus. And you're doing it in eighth grade now?
And that's what, if we're offering eighth grade, that means those students would be eligible for calculus early, right? So, like, definitely by the time they're seniors, they're taking pre-calculus in 11th grade, and depending on if they were able to double up in ninth or 10th grade in pre-calc and geometry, they may be taking it as early as 11th graders,
Good.
right? And then they have more room in their schedules as 12th graders
To
to
take
be
a
able to
nap.
take more AP courses or take college courses, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
saving parents money on college tuition because they're coming into their first year of college with college credit. So those are the kinds of things that we're talking to parents about to say that we are a real viable choice for your child. And who else is telling you, um, you know, who else is offering you that kind of option?
Well, this really does circle back around because I'm just we just took a little trip, and my daughter and some of her friends had younger siblings still in high school and grade school, and the things that they're learning, people get really down on children and they get down on education, and the things that the kids are learning these days blows my mind. Like it blows my mind. It's just they're having to do things earlier and sooner because there's just more to consume, and it's just so much. It can be quite overwhelming. Are there any programs that we should just cut out? Like, I got an argument the other day with a person says, I don't think we should teach cursive anymore. Like, I think it's like, why do we need cursive? And his argument was because it'll be like Sanskrit. If you can't read cursive, you're not going to be able to read all these documents.
Yeah.
I mean, are there any programs that we should just drop so that we can continue to elevate a child's learning journey to get prepared for tomorrow? I mean,
You know what? It's really interesting that you mentioned handwriting because we just had a collective conversation about that with the opening of schools. The superintendent has like a conference that lasts several days, and that came up, and it was decided that we are going to re-add handwriting to as part of our curriculum for that reason, right? So that students are able to read and to write, in cursive. I think it's important to offer parents options. So I'm not necessarily seeing that we need to take things away. I do think that for a district as large as ours, we need to offer a full portfolio of options and allow parents to be able to decide what they want their child to be able to learn,
so
whether they want them to have an immersive language experience or do they want them to have a traditional sort of comprehensive high school experience. Do they want them to have a Montessori type experience if they have a early learner or early aged learner. We want to offer that full portfolio. That's what we need. That's what large urban districts in particular need to be able to do to make sure that they're viable.
I just not, I find it fascinating. That's why I wanted to talk with you today. How you all are able to do so many different things with, every school district has budget issues, and trying to use that money wisely and correctly. And, you know, I, I was on another show the other day and they were beating up public schools for wasting money. I was like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. They have more laws that they have to follow that has nothing to do with what the school districts want. Really good laws, Title I, FERPA, the privacy rules that schools have to follow, the McKinley-Vento Act, things like that, that these other competitive schools don't have to follow. That's why you have more administrative team members to follow all these laws that we said we want as a society, which we do need, right? I just don't understand how you guys manage to stretch the dollars so far.
Yeah, we have a phenomenal budget team. And so definitely encourage you if you're interested, you can definitely speak to them about the details. But they have won awards for being able to submit on an annual basis for a number of years now budgets that are not requiring any sort of like repercussions or things like that are in place for districts that go beyond or attempt to go beyond the budget that's been allocated for them.
Golly. Well, I've got to tell you, I'm gonna kind of close out with a little bit of a summary. I'll give you the last word, Director. Appreciate it. I've got 10,000 notes here and pro tips. I think that the first thing is that you've been very proactive for years on getting ready for school choice, right? Teaching your people. These are my pro tips, Caroline. All right. So, the director's pro tips, I'm stealing them now, is getting their people trained up to be ready for school choice, letting them know that the world's changing and we're going to be competitive. And most of all, believing that you have a product that people want. And you do, but your whole team, all of your ambassadors from the staff to the teachers to the parents and families have to believe they want to get behind it. And the families in Newark we found believe it. They believe that there's good product offerings out there and it radiates out where we've gone to other districts literally in the same state. And everyone's just a little depressed. Everyone feels a little beaten down. They just don't have that proactive sense that we can compete, we can win. You've opened enrollment up, you've kept it open, and you've given them a lot of different opportunities to enroll in different ways. And then obviously you've fixated on providing awesome learning and education in calculus. I can't spell in an algebra in eighth grade. I don't understand any of that stuff. So that's great. Director, do you have any parting words, like any other things that you think it's important for schools that are really starting to get a handle on school choice and they're going to catch up? We want them to catch up to what you've already done. Any other little tips for them?
You know what? I do want to recognize our superintendent, Superintendent Roger Leone, and our chief of staff, Javier Nazario, as leaders in sort of modeling what the organization needs to do. So a lot of this work started with, the superintendent has a 10-year strategic plan. So there's a long-term view of like where the organization needs to go and how we're going to get there, sort of like beginning to script that out. And so that then can help shape how, what kinds of values you need to have in place in order to get there, what kinds of people you are looking for, how far you're willing to go, right? To be able to get all of those things in place, I think is really important. And the chief of staff, Nazario, has been incredible in terms of understanding that the marketing part of this, and getting out, for example, on billboards and social media, our story. Right,
Mm-hmm.
getting that story out is incredibly important, and then then you have to define what your story is going to be. You get to be the author of that, so that you have something to stand against potentially those negative storylines that are the default about public schools. You
Yeah.
have something that you've created that stands up against that.
I think you're right. I think a lot of it is about leadership and people, and leadership can come, yes, certainly from the top, but from anywhere in the organization where people believe in what they're doing and want to pull people along. And then you're, I love it that you said, the old adage is if you're not telling your story, somebody else is telling your story. And of course, it's never positive, right? So you've got to tell your story. And districts are really you all have been doing it because your leadership is driven this for years. But so many districts are finally starting to wake. Oh my God, we have to start telling our story. And they get pushback. Why are you out recruiting? Why are you out trying to advertise? Why are you telling your story? Just sit down and educate. Well, we won't have any students left. They'll all leave and to go to what I will refer to, just in my opinion, not as good of education options. But that's just me. Director, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.